Sophie. So there's one point where they're explaining to her what the most ancient icons for God are, or for like, male and female, and it's like known as the blade, the upward. Keep in mind the blade,
right?
The upward pointed
It's like
triangle,
yep,
and then the chalice, the grail, which is the downward pointed triangle, which is the womb,
Yeah.
And you have the upward pointed one. What's that, like the obelisk,
Yep.
the sword of Arthur in the stone, right? The hammer of Thor or the hammer of Freemasonry is this phallic, masculine, powerful object. But then you have the womb or the grail.
Yeah.
The chalice. It contains the holy blood of life or children or whatever.
It's like this. It's like this. And
exactly.
It's also
but what do you get
above,
when you...
so below.
But also, what if you merge them? What symbol do you get? A six-pointed star.
Oh, like this. Yes.
Yeah.
A six-pointed
you take
star.
the upward pointing triangle and the downward pointing triangle and you merge them, you get the six-pointed star.
Yeah.
Which is,
And the cool thing is, in the book, while you're reading it, they're explaining all of this, and then they'll actually put in like little pictures of it, like of the two triangles like overlapping and becoming the six-pointed star.
I just saw it when I flipped through the book. Yeah, I literally just saw it, bro.
That was one of the coolest parts for me because it's like, yeah, there it is, right there.
Right here.
I know
they can't see it.
That was a mind-blowing moment.
I mean, this thing is like showing you symbols throughout this book. It's really cool.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
So that whole previous paragraph before it is talking about, is basically exactly what Ryan was just saying. How the upward triangle is masculine, the bottom one, the lower facing one is feminine, and then it just shows you the symbol, and you're like, oh.
Do you know who else told me that in person?
Who?
Tim Taylor.
Really?
From the Department of Defense. Yeah. That was when I first realized that the people in the CIA and in these high-level intelligence societies. Ooh, dude, I just opened up to a heavy-hitting passage.
What?
Hold that thought.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, so Tim Taylor, he came around 2013. He started talking to us. He had a shirt that had an Ouroboros on it. He started talking to me. Dude, I was like 20. He started talking to me about like sacred geometry, upward triangle, downward triangle being masculine and feminine, merging them together. It's like God and the forces of life. I mean, anyway, check this out. I just opened to a random passage. These two pillars are the most duplicated architectural structures in history. Replicas exist all over the world. They're at the Rosslyn Chapel, which is a real place. I think it's in Scotland. Replicas of Rosslyn? She looks skeptical. No, of the pillars. Do you remember earlier that I mentioned Rosslyn itself is a copy of Solomon's temple? Those two pillars are exact replicas of the two pillars that stood at the head of Solomon's temple. Langdon pointed to the pillar on the left. That's called Boaz, or the mason's pillar. The other is called Jachin, or the apprentice pillar. He paused. In fact, virtually every Masonic temple in the world has two pillars like these. Fun fact, the catacombs in France, they're painted on the doorways, Boaz and Jachin.
Oh, right. I remember
I have
you
pictures.
saying that. Yeah. That's so crazy.
So and then it said Langdon has already explained to her about the Templars' powerful historic ties to the modern Masonic secret societies, whose primary degrees, apprentice Freemason, fellowcraft Freemason, and Master Mason, harked back to early Templar days. Sophie's grandfather's final verse made direct reference to the Master Masons who adorned Roslyn with their carved artistic offerings. It also noted Roslyn's central ceiling, which was covered with carvings of stars and planets. Check this out. When they get to Rosslyn Chapel, often called and this is a real place too. That's what's so good about this book is it's like, it's got all this material, but it's like based on all real stuff.
Yeah, and I would say like a large portion of it is untainted, like real, true history. But, they obviously flare some stuff.
It's dramatized, yeah. So Rosslyn Chapel, often called the Cathedral of Codes, stands 7 miles south of Edinburgh, Scotland, on the site of an ancient Mithraic temple. Built by the Knights Templar in 1446, the chapel is engraved with the mind-boggling arrays of symbols from the Jewish, Christian, Egyptian, Masonic, and pagan traditions. The chapel's geographic coordinates fall precisely on the north-south meridian that runs through Glastonbury. The longitudinal rose line is the traditional marker of King Arthur's Isle of Avalon and is considered the central pillar of Britain's sacred geometry. It is from this hallowed rose line that Rosslyn, originally spelled Roslyn, it's just a different spelling, takes its name. Roslyn's rugged spires were casting long evening shadows as Robert Langdon and Sophie Neveu, these are the characters of the book, pulled their rental car into the grassy parking area at the foot of the bluff. I believe they were like led here for the final piece of the mystery because it was like Isaac Newton's gravesite or something.
Right, yeah.
Something special about Isaac Newton.
Right. That he was, was it Isaac Newton's that they were trying to get to, or was it?
Yeah, because they're looking for the
Alexander
apple.
Pope?
I think it's
is
I
the
think
night
it's
they were
a
looking for.
pope. I think it's a pope.
Oh, what it is they were looking for Sir Isaac Newton, but what they didn't realize is he was buried by Alexander Pope.
Right, because the riddle said a pope.
Yeah, buried by a pope.
But it was a pope. It was
Right.
Alexander Pope, right?
Right, Alexander
Yeah, so
Pope.
then they get there and they find the Apple of Eden
Yeah.
and they're looking at the gravesite of Isaac Newton and it has all this esoteric symbology. Heavy emphasis on it being orbs.
Oh, yeah.
Orbs of the celestial spheres of, the stars and the moon and the planets and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to read that chapel because it's like, or that chapter. Yeah, my brain is like it's going faster now.
Yeah.
Because there's so much material here that's like, again, it's real world esoteric literature. It's very mind blowing. Like I love the King Arthur shit.
I do too. I got some stuff about that too because it's unfolded that like they're trying to find the Holy Grail, and then it's also later it's then unfolded that what that means is that this is pointing them to the information of the lineage of Jesus Christ. This is suggesting that Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene were actually in fact married and they had children, and that bloodline exists to this day, and that's what they like kind of discover in the book. But that's actually heavily widely theorized in other sort of thought, like
Yeah.
Originally, traditionally, the like kind of vanilla belief of the Holy Grail is just like, oh, it's the cup that Jesus drank from at the Last Supper.
Right.
That was it. But then also there's in a book called Merlin that was written in like the 1400s or even before that, Arimathea, is that it? Or is it Arimathea?
I'm not sure.
Is in charge of guarding and protecting the Holy Grail. For those who are already familiar with Avalon, which is the place where King Arthur is apparently buried. It's all legend, but apparently it's true. Other speculations say that Arthur himself was a direct descendant of Christ and was tutored by Arimathea, who was actually Merlin. The book is called Merlin, but it's theorized that the author was actually Merlin himself, who is using a pseudonym, like a different name, Arimathea. So there's other speculations that Arthur is the bloodline of Christ, even giving rise to the legend of the Sangreal, royal blood, which is an alternative to the theory of the chalice object. So even in King Arthur lore and legend, there are certain authors who write about King Arthur and say that was the point of the Holy Grail. It was actually a symbol. And then there's one more example written by, so according to the legend of Wolfram von Eschenbach, the Grail stone was made of a substance called lapis exilis, or exile stone, which supposedly fell from the sky in the form of a meteorite. This stone was the Grail's source of power and life, and only those
What was it called?
The exile stone, lapis exilis.
Okay.
Why?
Because I've also heard it said that stone was Moldavite.
Well, check this out.
It fell from space.
Check this out. This stone was the Grail's source of power and life, and only those who were pure in heart and virtuous could approach it and use its powers, which is almost identical to another famous stone. It's a story from like Asia. It's called the Chintamani. Yes.
The wishing stone.
The Chintamani stone, which is also like the Emerald of Lucifer. It's like this exact story of this powerful stone coming down from the sky. Stone. Yeah, it's being repeated over and over and over, and you can kind of surmise that they're all talking about the same thing.
It's the same as like the Philosopher's Stone. It's there may not be a stone. Yeah. It's like an esoteric metaphor about reaching enlightenment.
So I don't know if you
reaching knowledge.
I don't know if you knew this, but there's this like acronym that initiates and alchemists and like seekers use to sort of try and gauge if one of these legends is like legit or not. And it's this acronym called vitriol. Do you know about this?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So it's
blowing my mind because that's in the movie As Above, So Below.
It is?
Yes.
So vitriol is a Latin acronym that stands for the phrase visita interiora terrae rectificando in Vini's occultum lapidum. I know I butchered that, but which in Latin translates to visit the interior of the earth, and rectifying you will find the hidden stone.
No shit.
Yeah, that's what it means.
Bro, that's in the movie.
Occultum,
As above, so below.
Like occultum means hidden, lapidum means stone. That's exactly what it means. Visit the interior of the earth, and rectifying, which is just like purifying,
right,
you will find the hidden stone.
But I also feel like that means like know thyself, you know? Like it's like what Socrates said, know thyself. Like
right.
Meditation, the death of the ego to reach enlightenment.
Yeah.
Because like at the bottom of the rabbit hole of all this esoteric literature, the point of all of it is reaching an awakened state of consciousness.
Right.
You know, it's through just complete purification of the ego. So I feel like, you know, you're visiting the interior of the earth. It's as above, so below. That's you. That's your infinite inner state.
Yeah, it's like by delving deep into the earth.
Deeper into yourself.
That's how you know yourself.